My name is Giulio Astori. I'm a Principal Program Manager for Defender for Cloud. And today with us, there is Safeena Begum, which she also is a Principal Program Manager. And together, we're going to take you to the journey of Demystify our Defender CSPM plan. Safeena, please take over the next slide.
Thank you, Giulio. Hi, everyone. So happy to see you all here. Thanks for joining. This will be the agenda for today's session. We'll talk through the Microsoft Defender for Cloud architecture, just to recap the functionalities that we have in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and then we'll dig deep into what are the functionalities and capabilities that Defender CSPM offers, like, for example, agentless scanning for machines, agentless container posture management in Defender CSPM, and we'll walk you through and provide you a demo of cloud security graph and account attack path analysis. We'll also provide you a demo of governance capability, data-aware structure posture, as well as Microsoft Entra permissions management. So a big agenda following this session. Feel free to use Q&A to ask questions. Don't stop yourself for the end. Cool. So to start with, let's recap the Defender for Cloud architecture and its capabilities. So like you all may know already, Microsoft Defender for Cloud is a cloud-native application protection platform, which we call it as SYNAP, with a set of security measures and practices designed to protect cloud-based applications for various secure cyber threats and vulnerabilities. SYNAP, by the way, was named by Gartner. So here on the screen, you can view the architecture that combines several capabilities. Like if I start from the left, you can see like the new quadrant that we added months ago, which is DevSecOps. DevSecOps is to shift your security left and ensure that your misconfigurations and vulnerabilities are addressed before they even reach the production state. So what we ensure here in this pillar is that from the build time to the deploy time and to the runtime, we embed security into every stage of your cloud native application lifecycle. So that's what DevSecOps takes care of, and we have a dedicated blade within the Defender for Cloud portal for Defender for DevOps, which we'll be happy to show you in the demos. The next pillar we have is cloud infrastructure entitlement management. So Microsoft Entra permissions management is our SIEM solution here. This feature provides you comprehensive visibility into the permissions assigned to all your identities. Like, for example, it could be a user, or it could be a workload, or action or resources across your cloud infrastructures. So we monitor unused and excessive permissions as well, and where we also enable zero trust security for you through least privileged access in all the platforms like Azure, AWS, and GCP. This is a really interesting topic, and Giulio will cover more deep into this later in the presentation. And the next pillar is one of our favorites, cloud security posture management. So Defender for Cloud, like you all know, is known for its capabilities, like providing you complete visibility for your environment. And Defender for Cloud will analyze your onboarded resources, and it'll start providing you with the contextual security insights, right? So in the next slide, I'll also walk you through what are the different versions of Defender CSPM capabilities actually we have. But just one other point in the last screen, Giulio, before you go to the next slide, cloud workload protection is another pillar that we have in the architecture, which we call it as CWP. Where we surface the workload specific recommendations that will lead you to write security controls to protect your workload. So for example, if your environment is threatened, security alerts will display right away in the Defender for Cloud dashboard, and which will indicate the nature and the severity of the threat as well, so that you can plan your response. Either you use one of your SIEM tools that you're using or Azure Sentinel in order to investigate further. You can also use logic apps and other mechanisms to quickly respond, and so that you can limit the risk of your resources. Now, moving on to the next screen, I'll walk you through CSPM capabilities. So, like I said in the last screen, one of the Microsoft Defender for Cloud's main pillars for cloud security is cloud security posture management. So, cloud security posture management, like for example, it'll provide you with the hardening guidance that helps you efficiently and effectively improve your security posture. CSPM will also give you visibility into your current security situation, like how many vulnerabilities do you have? Do you have any misconfigurations? And when it comes to DevSecOps, do you have any secrets exposed and things like those? So we offer two flavors of cloud security posture management: foundational CSPM and Defender CSPM. The first box that you see is all about foundational CSPM. This is our free offering. So these capabilities are automatically enabled by default on any subscription, for example, or any account that you have onboarded to the Defender for Cloud dashboard. So, for example, you will get, like the slide says, asset inventory, continuous assessment for your for your resources. We also provide you security recommendations for posture hardening. We provide you compliance with Microsoft Security Benchmark and also Secure Score, so that you can assess your current status of your organization's posture. Now, let's talk about Defender CSPM. Defender CSPM is our paid offering. So, along with all the capabilities that you see in the first box, which is the foundational CSPM, you will receive more advanced posture management capabilities like attack path analysis, cloud security explorer, advanced threat hunting, governance management or governance capabilities. And you'll also receive tools to assess your security compliance with wide range of benchmarks. We will discuss very deep into all of these capabilities in the upcoming slides. But just to give you a summary of this slide, the Defender CSPM will protect you across all your multi-cloud workloads, but billing only applies to servers, database, and storage accounts. But Giulio will also discuss in the upcoming slides more about the billing. But yeah, so now let's go through each of the capabilities Defender CSPM offers in detail. The first being agentless scanning for machines, and I would like to pass on the mic to Giulio to talk about this capability. Go ahead, Giulio.
Thank you, Safeena. So one of the fundamental pillars of the CSPM, or the security posture management in general, is the notion of be aware, have a full visibility, full insight about the vulnerabilities on your workloads. The traditional workloads that we really get used to it is the traditional VM, right? Moving to the cloud doesn't mean that we all moved into the PaaS or SaaS type of architecture environment, but we still use traditional VMs to build our services, to build our application environments, okay? Traditionally, the vulnerability assessment has done for years using an agent, a service, a set of services, basically code that is running on your VM, Linux, or Windows, or any others, and then scans for known signs of those vulnerability based on the known vulnerability signatures. Okay, what we have done in the past year and a half, obviously to be fully aligned with the CNAPP solutions type of security, is the notion of simplify this process, meaning like I don't need you customers going through the effort of managing and deploy agent on those servers. Okay, those agent may conflict with other type of application. So what we've done is to create a solution which is 100% agentless. What we provide here is a way to scan your VMs, Linux or Windows servers in this case, without to have any agent running on a machine. How the actual solution works? Well, the solution is based on an environment that is going to be built within your cloud provider. So if you are using Azure, we are going to build a scanning environment into the Azure, specifically into the Azure region where your subscription is located. If you have AWS, we're going to do the equivalent in AWS also respecting the boundary of their region, meaning like if you are in US region, we build in US. If you are in Europe, we build in Europe, so on and so forth. Okay, same thing, same concept for GCP. Okay, so once you enable the which I'm going to show you through the demo, once you enable the actual features through Defender CSPM, this environment gets built. Okay, and thanks to this environment, what we do, we scan on a daily basis the VMs that are up and running. As long the feature is set to enable, we then move on the next steps, which is which server are going to be put in the queue to be scanned for vulnerabilities. We select those servers. You can have 10, 100, thousands of servers. We make disk snapshots of the respective disk of those servers. We mount those disks to respectively equivalent type of operating system server. If we need to scan it in Linux, we're gonna take a snapshot of the disk and we are going to mount the disk on a VM that is Linux based. Same thing for Windows. Obviously, it's not a one-on-one correlation, meaning it's not like I have one VM, I'm gonna build another VM. It's gonna be multiple disks on a temporary VM that is going to be used to host those snapshots. Once the snapshot is mounted, there is the second process. Our Microsoft Defender vulnerability management solution, which is also known as MEDVM. Traditionally, maybe you are familiar with the previous name, TVM. Okay, it's gonna then scan the disk. Okay, and it's gonna look for all the known vulnerability. Also, it's gonna create and produce a software inventories of the application they're running on the servers. Once the scanning is complete, and usually takes between 30 minutes to 1 hour, the actual disk and then the actual server that was used temporarily for holding the snapshot are going to be purged. So basically are going to be completely deleted, and then nothing is left behind in terms of the raw data inside of this environment. The metadata on the other end is then processed and is then shared, synced back within Defender for Cloud. Therefore, within 1 day, 24 hours, you should be able to have an inventory of those software and as well the full list of vulnerability that were found. Again, the engine that is used by the Agentless scanning is our own Microsoft NDVM, Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Vulnerability Management engine. Okay, it's different from when you have a like Defender for Server, you have options also use Qualys. This is strictly MDVM. Now, when when the environment is built, then when the plan is enabled, okay, the environment is built, and on your tenant there are going to be created some sort of like principal account with a role called VM scanner operator. Okay, similar role or account, it's also created in AWS and GCP with different name. In Azure, this is automatically happen as soon as you enable the enable the feature on the Defender CSPM, or eventually you can also enable under Defender for Server P2, and we'll show how. On AWS, on the other end, as you as you execute the connector configuration, therefore, as you go ahead and execute the cloud formations or the Terraform, the role is going to be built by that process. In AWS, it's called a VM scanner, and in GCP, it's called there's actually two roles. One is called the MDC, Agentless Scanning Role, and the second one is called the Cloud KMS, Crypto Key Encryptor Decryptor. The other additional role in GCP is executed as a build in order to also manage the reading of encrypted key. So if you have a server that is obviously encrypted, we are able also to read the content. Okay. Now, while in AWS, we are also able to decrypt and therefore read and find the inventory of the software vulnerability, even if the encryption is defined by a key that is customly provided by the customer. In Azure, right now, we are in the process of designing and make the CMK supportability in private preview pretty soon. Now, besides being able to scan your servers for known vulnerabilities and obviously being able to have an inventory of the software, we actually provide additional capability on top of that. The very first capability, which is also now in previews and available right now, is the notion of scan your virtual machines for secrets, okay, and credential. Soon on our roadmap, we also have the having the ability to scan for malware. And then you see from this slide, we're gonna move on to allow also scanning the VMs through the agentless solution for sensitive data and more. So what I mean secret and credential? Well, now because we take the snapshot of the disk, we already have the content. So while MDVM is doing its job to looking for, the known vulnerability and collect the software inventory, we have another set of an engine that is also scanning the same disk. For what? It's going to scan to looking for if there are any, we call secrets. Those secrets right now, the secrets that we are right now supporting are the SSH private key, the AWS access key, the AWS RDS SQL connections string, obviously the SQL connection strings, the storage accounts as token, and also the connection strings to connect the storage account. So this is also very important. Why it's important? Because not only we know that the server is vulnerable, but let's say a vulnerability, specifically if there is an RCE vulnerability, it is such that someone takes over and breaches the server. On that breach, once it's connected to the server, the attacker can also get hold of any of those secret and then laterally moving on next workload to attack and most likely get access. When we scan the secret, we don't stop only to show you that we find a secret. We actually do more with that secret that we find. We expose the secret, but also we test the secret, meaning like, is that private SSH key actually present, the equivalent of public version of that present in any of the server in their environment where someone can actually use to connect it? If it's not, we still present the data, but with less risk exposure, because the exploitability of the key, it's actually minimum almost at zero, because there is no equivalent public key produced from the private in order to create an SSH connection. Same thing with the others. What I mean with this is we actually test that key if it can be object of an exploitations. Next, I'm going to show a demo. So here, oops, I'm sorry, here. So as I say, when we enable, how do you enable the agentless? We're going to go under Defender for Cloud. Under the management sections of the blade, there is environment settings. Here, you can select your subscription, and then under their subscriptions, you will have the list of all the plans. When it comes to agentless VM scanning, you have two options. First option is to enable, if you enable Defender CSPM, such a feature under the Defender CSPM. You see agentless scanning for a machine. You could basically go ahead and enable it. In order to enable it, you are required either to have the security admin or the owner of the subscriptions, pretty much. Here, also you have an additional configuration, which allows you to create some exclusion tags, meaning like, if I say like, if I create an exclusion for agentless equal to true kind of thing, all right? And then I add this tag on a VM, then that VM will be excluded by the scanning of the Agentless, okay? Once you did that, which by the way, it can be done also under the server has the same thing, Agentless scanning for a machine, and the configuration is exactly the same. Once you do that, again, the environment gets built, and within 1 day, you get to see the first the results of the vulnerabilities. Okay. Now, once you you do that, then you can go in the recommendations, and if you look for vulnerability, there will be machine should have vulnerability finding a result. Under here, you will see a set of vulnerabilities. Okay, they are alphanumeric. Those ones, they're alphanumeric, are pretty much, you know, an indication they're done by MDVM. Okay, if you open up, you can also see that the solution MDVM. Now the question comes naturally, what about if I also have Defender for Server and enable the vulnerability management traditionally based on the agent? Nothing happens. Basically, what's going to happen is the two are working together. Most likely it's going to have the same exact results. But having the Agentless has a value, number one, because now we provide you the secret scanning additional to the vulnerability and the software inventory. We're going to provide malware scanning as well, and then we provide other things later on. The other thing that is the added value that we're working on to make the first scan, and this is on our roadmap pretty much, okay? The very first scan in the very first couple of minutes of the life of that server. So if you provision a new server, you don't have to wait like a couple of days that, you know, MDE gets installed, the agents gets installed, all of that. You know, less than a couple hours, you know, you will be able to see the first scanning. This is something that's coming. Right now, it's still 1 day, but it's still better of going through the whole, waiting the whole process of all the agents and install. With this, I'm basically going to go back into my PowerPoint, and then I'll pass back to Safeena, which is going to cover the rest of the agentless scanning capabilities.
Thank you, Giulio. Hello again, everyone. So agentless container posture management. So this is another capability that you receive when you enable Defender CSPM plan. So the capabilities include agentless discovery and visibility within the Kubernetes components. So agentless discovery for Kubernetes will provide you API-based discovery of information about your Kubernetes cluster architecture, be it your workload objects, and also the setup as well. So the way it does is, Defender for Containers uses Cloud Security Graph, which we'll show you in the demo in a bit, to collect, in an agentless manner information about your Kubernetes clusters. And then the data can be queried through the Cloud Security Explorer, and you can use it for Kubernetes insights, meaning, if you are looking to gain visibility to your Kubernetes clusters, data plane components like nodes, pods, that's really helpful. And along with that, you can take advantage of security insights. So we have predefined security situations that are relevant to Kubernetes components, like, do you have the pod exposed to the internet? Do you have any container that's running container images which has vulnerabilities and which rated severity as high, for example, right? You can search all of that information through Cloud Security Explorer. You can also do risk hunting, where you can, query various risk cases, either predefined or custom security scenarios. And last but not least, you can visualize and hunt for risk and threats to the Kubernetes environment with attack path analysis, where you prioritize and zoom into the container vulnerabilities and posture risk that matter the most. So let me show you the power of Cloud Security Explorer. Now I'm going to escape from here and take you to the Defender for Cloud dashboard. So Defender for Cloud dashboard has a Cloud Security Explorer plate dedicated to itself. Here is the place where you would search for the scenarios that you are looking for. Like in my example, if, for example, I'm looking for the parts specifically related to the Kubernetes workloads. Let's say, for example, that is running containers, right? You can keep adding, clicking on the plus sign and adding the condition in order to actually see what exactly you are looking for, right? So so I can select a condition saying, let's add another condition. Let's think about, if the container is running a container image in my example, and I want to, for example, display the vulnerabilities, or I could display by severity and things like those that has vulnerabilities. And if I want to specifically display the severity or CVID or description, I can choose that here, or I could search by the vulnerabilities. So like you notice here, there are a lot of things going on here in the backend, right? So we are looking for the parts that's running containers, which is running container images, and that has vulnerability severity set to high. This is going to run a KQL query in the backend, and it is going to help me understand if I have vulnerabilities for the specific for the containers that I've hosted in my environment, right? So it's going to display the results when it decides to. Now, depending, this is a query builder that you can use, but I'm going to talk more about Cloud Security Explorer in a bit, but I want to quickly show you some templates also that we have, right? If I take you back to the Cloud Security Explorer, you'll see the number of predefined templates that you can reuse. These are the common situational templates that we have designed for the customers so that, you know, it makes the job easy for you. For example, this is the query that I just ran. When you click on the open query, it's going to load the query for you. And when you click on search, the QL query is running in the backend for you and giving you the results. For the interest of time, I am going to switch back to the slide and take you to the next topic, which is the cloud security graph. So one of the biggest challenges that the security teams face today is the number of security issues they face on daily basis. Since there are too many security issues that Microsoft Defender for Cloud displays, we have heard feedback from the customers that it takes time and resources to address all of them. So how would you know which is important to solve and which can wait and things like those, right? Has always been a confusion for a long time to the security admins, but not anymore. With the help of Cloud Security Graph, you are able to analyze your blast radius. Like, for example, Defender for Cloud contextual security capabilities will assist your security teams to assess the risk behind each security issues. We are helping you identify the highest risk issues that should be resolved sooner so that you can reduce the risk of the impactful breach. So, you know, you have your cloud security graph, which is actually based on graph-based context engine, which actually collects data from your multi-cloud environment, be it AWS, Azure, or GCP, and other data resources. Like, for example, do you have any cloud assets inventory? Do you have connections and lateral movement possibilities that we are seeing between your resources? Do you have any resources that are exposed to internet permissions issues or network connections, vulnerabilities, and things like those? Can go on and on. But the data is collected, and then it is used to build a graph for you so that, you know, we represent that your multi-cloud environment. By the way, you must enable Defender CSPM for this capability. This is specifically for Defender CSPM. So Cloud Security Graph, we just saw a bit of a demo in the last section. So I am going to advance the slides to talk about risk prioritization with attack path analysis. So attack path analysis is a graph-based algorithm that scans the cloud security graph. So they both are very much related. So the scans expose exploitable paths that attackers may use to breach your environment and to reach your high impact assets. So attack path analysis will expose the attack paths for you, and it will suggest the recommendations as to how best you can remediate the issues that will break the attack path and prevent successful breach. The screenshot here on the screen that you're looking at is taken from the portal. So this is an attack path page that is showing you an overview of all your attack paths in your environment. You can also see your affected resources and list of active attack paths here. You can organize your attack paths based on the name, environment, risk categories, and so on and so forth. I will take you back to the Defender for Cloud dashboard and show you the attack path analysis. So I went to Defender for Cloud and I clicked on attack path analysis, dedicated blade for it. These are some of the attack path analysis that we have identified in the subscription that I'm loading right now. So I could click on one of it to show you more information. But before that, I want to just highlight that path count here. So an attack path may have more than one path that is at risk. So you see 1, 2, 10, 2, 8, 1, and so on, right? So the path count will tell you how many paths need to be remediated. So if the attack path has more than one path, then you will need to select each path within the attack path to remediate all the risk. Confusing? Let me show you what I'm talking about. So when I click on one of this attack path that was displayed for me, you'll be able to see information like what's the potential impact, resource types, remediation steps, and so on. And to the right side, you'll see the attack path, and this is the path that we have highlighted for you. So you could analyze to see each path to see where it is actually routing the traffic and to which network instance and to which compute instance and things like that. You can further use insights to view the associated insights for that node specifically. And one other capability is you can select recommendations to see, if I had probably taken care of this recommendation, then I would not have been in this situation of this attack path, right? And information obviously will give you more information. So with the help of this, security admin's job became just very easy so that, you can analyze what is more important for you as an organization to resolve the issues to start with, and remediate the recommendations that matter the most, as well as take care of the other remediations. But this is an added advantage of it. Now, going back to the presentation. Cloud Security Explorer, we just saw a very quick glimpse of it, but very quickly, one of my favorites in Defender CSPM, which will help you proactively identify security risk in your cloud environment. What it runs in the back end is a graph-based query on the cloud security graph, which is Defender for Cloud's context engine. So you can prioritize your security team's concern while taking your organization specific context and conventions into the account. You can query all your security issues and environment context with the help of this this particular feature. Remember the Log4j issue that we had back in the years? That the Cloud Security Explorer would help you query the resources that may have Log4j as an example, right? Or any of the other scenarios, like do you have any resources that are exposed to internet, and do you have CVIDs in this example that you're looking at the screenshot, right? So you can go crazy with the query by clicking on the plus signs, and yeah, you can actually filter to what exactly matters most to you and what you're looking for. It's a KQL query that's running in the backend. You don't need to know KQL in order to run this particular GUI. It's designed very simple in very lame terms to help all the security admins, be it you have KQL knowledge or not, and so on and so forth. Since we saw the demo, I'm going to skip the demo part for this feature for the interest of time and take you to another amazing capability, that is governance. So one of the challenges we have heard from customers are there are too many teams, and it's difficult to set accountability and ownership. So we've introduced governance rules feature, which is also part of Defender CSPM plan. So with the help of governance, you can create accountability and transparency so that you can drive the process of improving the security posture within your organization. So what you do is I will take you to the portal again, and I can take you to the recommendations and choose one of my unhealthy recommendation here. So let's take an example of this recommendation, and I want to assign this recommendation to a specific individual or a group. I will be able to do that by clicking on one resource or more than one resource and clicking on assign owner, which will give me the capability to search for the owner, right? And provide the email address, user account, or a group name. And we have the capability where you can set the due date when you want this recommendation to be resolved. And when you click on apply grace period, this recommendation will not affect your secure score until the due date that you have defined here. You can also click on the checkbox, which is enabled by default, but you can uncheck or a check to send notifications and penalize the owners, right? If you want to go more further, you can also notify your direct manager. So this feature is integrated with Azure Active Directory, so we'll be able to see who's the owner of the individual or group that you have assigned this recommendation to, and we'll be able to send weekly emails, to set more accountability, right? Now I could click on security posture to see all the owners that's been assigned for the recommendations. This will give you a really good summary, right? And then you can see which are the recommendations that are overdue, affected resources, and the recommendations. So I could click on one of the recommendations, and this will give me more information if I am doing it well, on time or not, and things like those. Very impactful capability. I've heard great feedback from the customers on this capability. If you haven't tried it out, please feel free to do that. And this is a part of Defender CSPM plan. Now, moving back to the slides. The last one that I had to cover was, before I give it out to Giulio, is compliance. Compliance is a feature that you will also get if you enable Defender CSPM, right? So you may already have been if you have been using Defender for Cloud, you may know about this feature. We have a dedicated blade called regulatory compliance, where Defender for Cloud will continuously assess your hybrid cloud environment to analyze your risk factors according to the controls and best practices and the standards that you have applied in your subscriptions. So in the screenshot here, you will see the regulatory compliance dashboard, where we are reflecting the status of your compliance with the standards. And then, the regulatory compliance dashboard will show you the status of all the assessments within your environment for, if you have chosen the standards and regulations. You can also create your own custom regulatory compliances as well. If you think that there is something that we are not covering in the standards today, you can do that very easily, and all your custom regulatory compliance will come into this dashboard itself. So with this, moving on to the next feature, and I would like to pass on the mic to Giulio. Thank you.
Thank you, Safeena. Let me share. So far we went through and then present you the excitement around Agentless scanning for VM first containers, how such data and other telemetry data collected, it is then stored in our security graph database, consumed by the attack path analysis, consumed for risk analysis through the Security Explorer. We saw how important it is to remediate, therefore having automated rule that assigns a change request with an ETA, so on and so forth. And finally, Safeena covered the compliance, which is an important component of the overall security posture. Piggybacking on the compliance, I want to move in the next sections, which is still an agentless capability of Defender CSPM, but also part of a storage account. And that is the data aware security posture. So the data sensitivity awareness, it is actually very important, okay, for many factors, for many reasons. First, it helps organization to protect their most valuable data assets, okay, from unauthorized access. Perhaps can protect from the data be disclosed, can protect from the data to be destroyed. Maybe some not happy employee will do that, right? Second, it can help organization to comply with the actual data privacy regulation. That's why I say piggybacking from the compliance part, right? There is a very strict data regulation, that came alive several years ago, the General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR, which sets a lot of constraints when it comes down to the data. Finally, but not only, there are many other reasons, finally, meaning like from the one that I consider very important, it can help the organization to reduce the risk of a data breach and other security incident. So when we present the data awareness security posture, the first question that comes from our audience is, I thought that you guys also have a purview. Is it that the same thing? Is something different? So purview is a different solutions. It's a SaaS-based solutions, and it is an enterprise level solution for in-depth analysis of your data awareness. What we provide through the Microsoft Defender CSPM, and as well as part of the storage account plan, is a data awareness based on an agentless engine that it is built to take what we call smart sampling of the data on your data stores. That smart sampling will discover and select a number of assets in your data store, and then will result in the discover evidence of such data, and obviously consume the data for different reasons. In Defender CSPM, if you enable data awareness security posture, which by the way, all those features that are embedded under the Defender plan setting should be automatically by default turned on right from the moment that you switch the toggle of Defender CSPM plan to enable. Okay. However, if you switch the plan on and you are a security admin, you might not have full permission to enable the others feature settings. Therefore, the plan maybe have some of those settings turned off. So it's always good to check if the setting is actually on or not for the specific feature. Okay. For the data awareness security posture, perhaps you need to be a subscription owner. Okay. Remember, for the agentless VM scanning, you could be security admin or subscription owner. Here, you need to be subscription owner. And that's true for Defender CSPM, if you enable in Defender CSPM, or also in the storage account. If you only enable in the storage account, however, you can be obviously storage, the subscription owner. But if you are not, you're just the storage account owner, you can also enable, but you can only enable this feature under the storage account. Now, the fact that we provide a data awareness security posture in two plans, the Defender CSPM and the one for storage, doesn't mean they do exactly the same thing. I mean, actually, let me rephrase. They do exactly the same thing, meaning like they are going to use the same exactly scanner to scan your data store for sensitive data that you configured. However, the consumption and the use case, how the data is used, it's a little bit different. When you enable for Defender CSPM, okay, the data that is collected and discovered is going to be used for risk analysis. So the data is going to be exposed through the attack path analysis and through the Cloud Security Explorer. The attack path analysis will show a detected attack path automatically, whereas the Cloud Security Explorer has, Safeena has already demoed and discussed. It is more such a doc, such an on demand that you do. Like, so you create that query and you look for specific condition by which you find those information, and then you elaborate your risk analysis upon that. All right. When you enable that into the in the Defender for Storage plan, on the other end, the data is collected the same way. However, again, the consumption different. In this case, the information is not shared through the attack path analysis or Cloud Security Explorer, but it is consumed to generate alerts. Okay. As today, there are two security events it's generated. One is the sensitive data exposure event. It's an alert where the actual detections will find access level changes, allowing those public access storage in a form of a not authenticated access, and then the storage contains the blob or container contains sensitive data. Okay, obviously when I say public access, I mean exposure to internet. The second one is suspicious activity on resources with the sensitive data, meaning like something fishy is happening on this data store, on this blob perhaps. Okay, and we highlight that in an alert, meaning like, well, we see something happen in this store, and because there is sensitive data, the risk is high, and therefore we do the alert. Okay, now I'm going to go to demo and show a little bit of those things, but on the next slide, as we also do for the agentless scanning, we just don't stop at the first set of information, meaning like we only find sensitive data. Okay, in this case, we also able to scan for credentials. Okay, and this is a public preview. So as we scan for data awareness, we also scan for credentials. Okay, and so today in the public preview, the credential scan is supported for the Azure Data Store and AWS Data Store. Okay, we have over 38 different types of a credential that we are able to detect under the scan, and some of those most used types of credentials are the following: listed inside of the slide: the Azure Active Directory client secret, the Azure Active Directory user credential, as well the service bus shared access signature. For Amazon, AWS, we have the S3 client secret access key, or the Azure Databricks personal access token, et cetera, et cetera. So, as we build those ancient scanning engines, okay, then we add additional capability on it. And I want to stress this thing out. Everything we adding into those already existing capability will not bump the price. The price, it is still the same for the plan, and everything we added will still keep the price as I say. Now I'm going to go into a demo. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go demo. The first thing I'm going to do is, obviously, we already saw how you set in the environment settings, and toggle the actual feature on, all right? So once it's on it, the scan is going to happen within 24 hours. And let's say that something it's exposed. So because I have the feature enabled on the Defender CSPM, the first thing I'm aware of is the fact that the attack path analysis has discovered something. Okay, what has discovered? A bunch of things. Perhaps has discovered a blob storage containing sensitive data, but also publicly accessible. Okay, you also discovered that there are VMs. Okay, they are also exposed to the internet. And this is a totally long story because there is so many things that identify the exposure. But their VM that is exposed to the internet also has a permissions. VM can have an identity built within the VM itself, and that identity has permission to do what? To access a data store. Guess what? This storage account has sensitive data, so we highlight such thing. Okay, so if you open up the attack path in this case, you see that from the internet to a specific IP address, obviously the IP address that is attached to a network card of an Azure VMs in this case. Okay. Is also telling that this VM is exposed to the internet, but this VM is also vulnerable, has vulnerabilities. Okay, what are the vulnerabilities? Very easy. You click on the actual node, and you look into the insights, and it says, look, this VM has exposure to internet and also has a bunch of vulnerabilities. Okay, so you can actually look through it, those vulnerabilities for such. Also has an alert already generated on that. Next thing is that VM has been configured with the system identity. It's a managed identity. In this case, it's a system identity. So we highlight that there is a system identity. So we highlight the actual identity, and we highlight the ID of the identity. And then their identity has read permissions, to access on a resource group. Okay, so those read permissions on the resource group allows that server to access whatever other resource under the RG, right? In this case, Azure. And guess what? One of the resources in this resource group, sorry for the word, resource double wording here, resource. One of the resources is a storage account under the RG. And guess what? The storage account, okay, in this case, okay, has a lot of sensitive data. That sensitive data are a mix of different types because it's a DEM environment, credit card number, US and UK passport number, so on and so forth. You can go on and see other things, all right? So as you can see from Defender CSPM, this is exposed, okay, through the attack path. Also, we just released recently a nice data security dashboard that allows you to actually walk through those data sensitivity exposure, okay? So through here, you can click on anything that is presented through the dashboard, and you can do further analysis by opening up actually the Class Security Explorer. When you click on that view, it opens up the query automatically. Therefore, you can do a search, and you can actually see, some of the data results for the risk analysis query, okay? Again, this is also exposed to this dashboard. And then the dashboard allows you to open exactly the query that you will use to see further down the data. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next, the last portion, and the last portion is the actual Microsoft Entra permission management. This is not about the Entra permission management. What do you call slide that actually describes what is the Microsoft Entra. Okay, this is a slide that it is basically telling that we as a Defender for Cloud now are building the integration with Microsoft Entra. Okay, so this is what we call Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management, also known with the acronym KIM or SIM, depending the way you want to pronounce. I prefer KIM because SIM is more something that people think that is the security information event management. So I use KIM. So the KIM is a security solution that helps organization to manage identities and manage the access privilege in the cloud environment. Okay, and it provides visibility and control over the permission the groups. Also, it creates the risk index score that reflects the risk of such users. Okay, and this is the key. The index score, the risk index score. So what we have done so far with the integration is exactly what do you call synchronize the risk index score, and we use the word PCI within Defender for Cloud. Therefore, Defender for Cloud, being your posture management solutions, also acts as a single pane of view to highlight those risky accounts, those risky identity. More integrations coming in the roadmap. Let's see, in a quick demo, okay? So the very first thing, oops, I didn't have the demo slide here, so sorry. Let's, so the very first thing that it is needed to, in order to have that integration active, is to go under the security score, okay? Under the security score, we have, I'm sorry, not the security posture. I don't get it, why it's not here? Huh? Okay. This is weird. Okay. Am I missing something here? Oh, here. So Okay. Because I'm sorry, because I have a 120, 125 zooming, this thing is, obviously was obfuscated. So once you're on your secure postures, the first thing you're going to see your Entra permission management status, okay? Because it needs to be enabled, all right? So you need to actually initiate the enablement of that integration. Therefore, there is a wizard that walks right through the steps that allows you to have a Defender for Cloud integrated with the Entra, Microsoft Entra, okay? In this case, there are already two environment that are connected and they are unhealthy. If I click show more, unfortunately, I won't be able to go because I don't have permissions at the tenant level. And so it's going to say that I don't have a permission. But if you basically click on that show more detail, it will take you right there and see those informations. Okay. However, how do you see that inside of the Defender for Cloud? Very easy. You go in the recommendation and very quickly you can go search for PCI. Okay, and where you find it under the implementing best security best practice PCI, you should be able, here you go, you should be able to see the actual recommendation with the PCI acronym, and right there you can click on it. Okay, here perhaps I have an account within the AWS and the PCI record is 75. Now, one thing that I want to stress, usually the low level is 35 below. Everything 35 and up is considered risky, unhealthy. Okay, so if you click on it, you can also remediate by using a logic apps if you want to, or you can assign an ownership to do the change. And how do you remediate? It's expressed as described here in the manual remediation. And with this, I'm done with this demo. The last slide that I want to go over before I want to close, and we are 1 minute over, and I apologize for that, is that Defender CSPM is billable at the cost of $5 per month for billable resources. Those billable resources today are VMs, storage accounts, open source databases, SQL Pass database servers, and it's it. And then this cost will keep $5, and then we'll add additional. We'll also, as we add additional capabilities, we'll still keep that cost of $5, which I think is a really good cost for now. And with this, I want to thank you, and I'm sorry again for 1 minute, 2 minutes over the time, but I want to again thank you for this. For any questions, you can also email our group or asking through the chat.
Thanks, Giulio and Safeena. We did have tons of questions, which the team here tirelessly helped answering all of them, and we'll just go over a couple at least. Just there is a fundamental question regarding the agentless scanning. We have someone asking which is better, agentless or with agent. And I was thinking that if one of you would provide an example of a customer scenario that can benefit from each, that would be great. Thank you.
So my answer is it's not one or the other. Okay, I think the combination of the two in this case is also the best offer, the best value. However, with the agent based, you have the pros are the agent is obviously running on the operating system. Therefore, if the disk is encrypted, it can easily read the disk because obviously the operating system already decrypted. Okay. However, opens up to attack risk because someone that gets hold of the agent, if it's exploitable, can also deal with the disk. But with the agent, you need to manage the actual agent itself, okay? So there is the complexity around managing the agent and also the complexity around deploying the agent, okay? By agentless, on the other end, it doesn't require an agent, so that complexity is gone, okay? The other thing is, let's say that you have a third-party solutions. I'm not saying any name, any third party, not Microsoft, okay? Which is agent-based, all right? And you're really running the evaluations of the server, okay? You can also use our agentless solutions because it will not conflict. It will not, be on the way with the other agent. Therefore, there will be no computer resource consumption or any conflict, and also get an additional set of evaluations. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's better. Who knows it? Okay. Finally, the thing that we're doing agentless, it's not only vulnerability. As you can see, we do secret scanning. We're about to do malware scanning. We're about to do sensitive data scanning. So our solutions, agentless solution, it's more than traditional vulnerability management assessment. Okay. And finally, okay, when you provision a new server, before that agent gets installed, deployed, it might take hours and hours and hours. So you might, vulnerable because the server, who knows, maybe has some vulnerability, and you publish the server the internet. You don't know yet. With the agentless, again, pretty soon, in a matter of a couple of minutes, we ran the scan, and in less than an hour or two, you have that visibility. That's a big thing, right? So you're reducing the risk, the time, the intercore from the first time the server is online and the time that the risk can happen. Okay, that's my 2 cents on this.
Thank you so much, Giulio, for this clarification. Well, we're well over the time, and want to thank you and Safeena for being our guest today and for sharing this great information with our community. And also want to thank the Q&A team who helped us with answering the questions and providing this resourceful information. So to all the listeners out there still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and desires to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community, that is. Together we can make a global impact, so please join us at aka.ms/security community. This is also where you'll be notified about the upcoming webinars, events, and other announcements. Also, please take a minute submitting your webinar feedback at aka.ms/security webinar feedback. And for those of you who may have additional questions on the topic that we just covered or other product-related questions, please feel free to raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community discussion space at aka.ms/MDC community. Excuse me. Thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. So we hope to see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.